Hey BookTube, here's my review of It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm Jen and I talk about audiobooks, and I wanted to share with you my thoughts on It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I listened to this on audio and it was narrated by Olivia Song. I think Olivia Song did an average to above average performance and largely unremarkable. When I think about the book, I think more about my feelings about the story and less about the way that the narrator expressed the story. And if that's the case, then I think she did her job very well, because I was not drawn out of the story, or the narrative was not interrupted in any way by her performance. So yeah, good job, Olivia Song. I really, I appreciated the narration. I did not like this book, and I talked briefly about that in a wrap-up, but I wanted to explore my dislike of the book a little more in detail, because I really don't want to be misunderstood when I talk about my feelings about the book. The book is about spousal abuse, and so I want to lay some caveats out there before I even get started. First of all, I have no personal experience with that. I've never been an abused spouse, so I don't know what that feels like. Second of all, I believe that an abused spouse needs to get out of that situation immediately. No one needs to stay, no one should stay in a situation where they are being physically abused, or, verbally abused either, or emotionally abused. Anytime there is abuse happening, some separation between the abuser and the abused needs to happen. So having said those two things, I didn't like this book because I didn't like the way that the subject matter was handled. Colleen Hoover has some endnotes in this book, and I really appreciated those because I love her as a romance writer. I have all of her books here except for the latest one. And in these endnotes, she talks about the fact that she does not write to educate or persuade. She writes to entertain. And I have appreciated that. I love the fact that she always has a happy ending in every one of her books. I love the way she develops a romance, and I love the fact that she throws in a plot twist. That's just me. I love her as an author. So I expected to love this book. This is a very personal book to Colleen Hoover. It is a story that she felt needed to be told, and it comes out of her own life. Her mother was an abused spouse and was in a bad situation with Colleen's father, and was able to get away from that, and ended up in a wonderful marriage to another man whom Colleen considers to be her dad. So it was a personal book for her to write, and so I think she basically took real life events and fictionalized them in a modern day setting, and I can appreciate that. What I didn't like was the fact that the spousal abuse that was handled in the book was handled in much the same way it would have been handled in years past, when there weren't the kinds of help available to people that there is now. Help is everywhere. I mean, there are shelters, there are social programs, there's counseling, there's therapy, there's medication, there's anger management. It's a whole host of things that are available to people that are in this bad situation. I believe that marriages should last, if possible. I have been very committed to my marriage, and believe me, my husband and I hit that wall that everybody hits, and we pushed through, and we've remained committed to each other. And so I know not everybody can say that, but it's worth hanging in there if you are married to someone that you have committed to and that you love. So in this book, there were two people like that, and yet they were not able to overcome the spousal abuse that happens. And no effort is made to draw in any external help. And that really bothered me. I didn't like the fact that they didn't go outside themselves to find out how to deal with this. They didn't get counseling. They didn't get therapy. Nothing happened other than them trying to talk about it and deal with it that way. Well, yeah, that's the way it begins. And obviously, an abused person needs to get away from that situation. But that doesn't necessarily mean a marriage has to collapse. I don't believe that anybody is a lost cause. I think that, every kind of a person is salvageable on some level. Every action like that can be something that, a person who's doing it sees as wrong and can overcome with the various kinds of help that are available today. Now, I have no personal experience being an abused person. So maybe that's not true, but I believe it is, because I do have experience with counseling and therapy and anger management and medication and all of those kinds of things. And I know that a lot of mental problems are solvable problems now, whereas they might not have been in the time that Colleen Hoover went through this experience, when her mother went through this experience. So for that reason, I really didn't like the book. I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the attitude of the main character. I can appreciate the story in its most base elements, in that, it's a story about what it's about, and I liked the way she told it, but I didn't like what happened. And that really has put me off from the book. I don't like the book for that reason. It was emotionally trying. And I know that a lot of people really like this book and think it's the best book they've read all year, because they either have a personal experience with abuse, or it just touched them on an emotional level that really moved them. And I think it did move me, but not in a good way. So I know that I'm probably in the minority when I say that I didn't like this book, but those are my reasons why. And I would be interested to hear what your opinions are about that. I know that opinions are pretty much across the board. I liked it, I didn't like it, and everything in between. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you felt about the book if you read it, and your reaction to the way that she handled the book, the events in the book and the problems, and whether or not you think that they would be handled any differently today than they would have in the past. That is it for my review of It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and that's it for now for me. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.